everyone, and welcome back to Gura. Now, okay, let me be completely honest with you. I wasn't planning on having a Gura episode out today. In fact, I was more on planning having a Templon episode out today. But, I just never, I never really finished the Talpion's body plans. Instead, I've just been kind of I've finished all the mole bodies, but I'm not fully done with the invertebrate bodies. I've been kind of slacking recently because of school and other things. I'm sorry, but school is pretty important, guys. Go to school. And, I was just doing a bunch of stuff, and then I realized, hang on a second, I basically have all the Guran organisms for the second episode already done. So, why not put them into the video software and get it uploaded? So, exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm going to record a new Gura episode. If you hear cars driving by, I can't control people's lives, so, I don't know. If they want to go somewhere, I guess they can. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it to go ahead and get this episode out of the way. So, last episode on Gura, we discussed the tube bodies, the 4 stars, and the tripod worms. Now we're going to jump millions of years into the future to where their descendants start to make a bit more different forms than in last episode. Now, on Earth, there was a thing called the Cambrian explosion event. This is when most of the body plans on nowadays, such as the invertebrates and vertebrates, formed. And a lot of animals developed, as well as plants and other creatures. Gura is going to have a similar event. It's going to be called the Guran explosion. And this event happens around maybe around 50 million years into the future after the first episode. So, you might be wondering, well, what's the first creature and what's going to really kick off this whole thingy in the first place? That simple answer is the tube bodies. The tube bodies are the ones who started it all. So, you can thank them for that. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the tube bodies' descendants, shall we? So, you might be wondering, well, how are the tube bodies going to really make a descendant? Their body plan is pretty much perfect for gathering marine snow. Kind of. But, somewhat. But, since of overcrowding because of the tube bodies, some tube bodies might want to get a little bigger to get more marine snow. And that's where we introduce you to the massive tubes, or massive tube bodies for short. Just kidding. That's not really short. The massive tube bodies are very large and are definitely not short. They can grow up to around 6 to 7 feet tall, which is very big. You could probably fit inside one. They still have the same sort of organs and other things, except they're just way, way larger. Their pupa and larvae are basically the same forms as their ancestors, except they're just way bigger. These organisms have evolved large bodies to gather up as much marine snow as they can before any other tube body can. And it's working quite well. Their larvae, about the size of a large beetle, can swiftly move through the clearings of open oceans and other things, while their large pupa scuttle across and other things. So, yeah, their body plans are doing quite well, and in growing and other things. So, if you are in the seafloor, you could probably find these guys scattered out in large open areas. Maybe with their pupa slithering about, being around the size of a pretty large snake. Now, that might be a little bit startling, and you might think, well, yeah, these body plans would be best at gathering a lot of marine snow. and some other tube bodies started to catch on. Instead of growing large, giant tubes, some might develop something different. Meet the fan bodies. The fan bodies are descendants of the tube bodies. Instead of growing large tube bodies, they have developed multiple mouths. These mouths branch out into a coral-like structure that has different openings that can gather different amounts of marine snow. Although they might not look it, these creatures can gather around the same amount as these giant tube bodies because of their multiple mouths. In a way, these creatures resemble fan coral here on Earth, with their branching structures. And basically, the tube bodies are basically the equivalent of coral or anemones on Gura and other things so far. I wonder if these creatures, as well as the giant tube bodies, the normal tube bodies, and these guys, might form reefs similar to Earth coral. Maybe. We'll just have to wait and see in the near future. Now, I've been talking about the sessile creatures, and we're going to continue that with this guy. This guy is a sticky tube. Now, you might be wondering, what's a sticky tube? Well, it's a sort of parasitic creature that, as in its larval stage, it will slowly float around in the ocean, eating marine snow and other things. However, once it gets to its pupa stage, it stabs into the flesh of a larger creature and slowly evolves into an adult, which basically has now fused its body with the flesh of the creature. They do this so in case of any other organism, they'll probably have higher altitudes than marine snow because, as we're going to see later in the episode, these creatures, they're going to swim up far into the tops of the waters. So these creatures are kind of like an earth barnacle, in a way, even though they don't have a brain or anything like that. We've been talking about, the sessile adults for now on, but what about something different? Well, yes, these guys. These guys are neotenous pupa. The neotenous pupa stage is a bit stranger. Now, the pupa have become neotenous and no longer a part of the sessile range. If you take a close look at the creatures, these creatures might resemble earthworms. They are also kind of like earthworms. These creatures have developed long tube-like bodies still, but have developed more organs than last time, including a brain. They have developed a tiny brain similar to an earthworm, and they rummage through the sand, eating marine snow and other things of the sorts, and have developed a circulatory system with green blood. As you can see here in this diagram, green blood with a heart to pump this blood, which is very efficient in the tube body's case, as in the beginning, they didn't have blood or a brain. So this is very efficient for the tube bodies now. And, let's talk about these other wormy bodies' descendants. This is the polka-dotted worm, or spotted body. These creatures have developed yellow markings with orange skin. They are also a neotenous tube body that is mobile, has a brain, and retains a green blood. Now you might be wondering, why is this thing orange with yellow circled spots on its skin? That's for one main reason. These creatures are poisonous, highly poisonous to any creatures, and they've developed these bright markings in order to stand out among the purple foliage that they slither through to look for marine snow. And these are going to be the primarily colors that most poisonous organisms on Gura are going to use. They're mainly going to use orange and yellow to stand out among most purple stuff. And it could probably work. Most creatures do not dare to mess with these creatures. Even though these creatures are blind and deaf, they know that the predators that are trying to eat them are not going to even dare to attempt to mess with these orange worm creatures. And yeah, that's kind of it for the two bodies. They are going to sort of kickstart the Guran explosion event. Okay, since we've went over the beginning of the Gura explosion event, let's go over some more descendants of animals. Let's start with the tripod worms because they're pretty cool. They are probably the most efficient animals yet, having a pretty complex brain for the time and red blood, which is going to be perfect because red is one of the most efficient blood types out there. Let's go ahead and talk about some of their descendants, shall we? Over time, the tripod worms slowly began to swim. Tripod worms began to sort of hunt some small creatures, mainly the tube worms. They hunted them, and then they began to swim to catch some more tube worms, such as their larvae and other things, which would be pretty efficient. So over time, they began to evolve and other things, slowly evolving into this guy, Premium Osis, or first bone. Now, as its name suggests, these guys have developed the first internal skeleton. This skeleton is a mix of calcium and chitin. This reinforced chitin and bone helps them swim efficiently through the open ocean. They have developed a long spine along their spinal cord and ribs to hold internal organs. However, sadly, they don't have a sternum, similar to most fish, nor bones in their fins. Instead, their bones are mainly made up of thick muscles that move. Their skull, however, looks a bit funky. Since these creatures have now developed eyes in order to spot prey, meaning they have now 6 eyes, they have now developed eye spots in their skull, and then in their lower jaw bones. They have developed a smaller lower jawbone and a long trunk-like top bone that allows them to snatch prey that swims too far from them. Now, these guys, of course, look very weird looking. I mean, they still retain the red blood and brain and any other organs, but the new bone system, skeletal system, is going to mean that their descendants, instead of being invertebrates, their descendants are going to be vertebrates. They're probably going to be the ones to take over on Gura. As we can see, looking at this diagram, these creatures have 4 main fins to help them swim, and 4 tinier fins at the very back that hold eggs and other things of the sorts. At the top, there's a small hole. This hole right there is basically their gill system. As they swim, water brushes over the gills and they breathe. Now, the hair-like structures over their armored head is kind of just like, extended skin. These are used for mating displays. Males with the bigger mane, if you will, are usually the ones that are going to get the females, and we're going to go to Smash Town. And that means they're going to, more than likely, have more kids. So, males with the bigger, more fluffier manes are going to get more females. Now, originally, the tripod worms developed a swimming method similar to swimming similar to how worms swim or even sea snakes. However, Premium osis develops a swimming method similar to B, since of their new bone structure, allowing them to be more sturdy while swimming instead of more worm-like, which is going to be pretty efficient in the upcoming millions of years that these creatures are going to take. Oh yeah, I forgot. These guys have descendants. This guy is one of their first descendant, actually. Osis pertus, also known as the bone shark. Now, hence its name, these creatures, have skeletons and have convergently evolved with earth sharks. These creatures have developed a similar bone structure and head shape, with a long, extended trunk-like jaw that is used to snatch up prey that gets too far from them and pull them down into the mouth structure, with long, sharp teeth that are equipped for slicing through flesh. They have an extended dorsal fin, kind of like a shark, and are just very shark-like, and have the armored head, with similar buzzing hair manes. However, instead of impressing mates, these manes are used to communicate to others of their kind. They're quite intelligent, actually, and have a complicated pack hunting structure. There are usually about 6 females at the very bottom ranks. The females help their babies hunt, teaching them how to hunt and caring for them. And basically, that's all the females are used for. However, the females, if the prey is way larger than any of their pack members can hunt, they'll hunt too. However, it's more than likely that they won't do this, because they don't want to hurt the females, as the females are the ones that lay the eggs. So they don't want the females to die in the pack, as well as the females are the larvae. The larvae are basically just elongated, slimy, wormer-like versions of the adults. So they're kind of more classified as larvae. Then there are the 3 main males. The 3 main males can breed with the 6 females to spread their genes through and through. However, sometimes they're allowed to do this, only on rare occasions if inbreeding might get bad. If inbreeding gets really bad, then they're probably going to go try to mate with another pack's females to make sure that the species stays not inbred. Then there is the alpha. The alpha can be male or female. It just depends. The alpha is the one that coordinates the pack. It's more than likely going to be male because the males breed with the females. And of course, the alpha is going to want to spread their genes more. The alpha coordinates the attacks on larger creatures, using their manes to coordinate in a sort of buzzing-like sound. Take a listen to that. And as you can see, that buzzing noise is what helps them communicate and coordinate pack hunting. And you might be wondering, well, what would these creatures be pack hunting? Simple answer is, well, okay. You know something? I forgot to mention one critical detail on these creatures, and is the fact that they are counter-shaded. Counter-shaded is light bottom and dark bottom. And this is crucial for their pack hunting, because if something's looking down from them from the top waters, they'll see nothing but darkness, which is perfect. And if creatures looking down from the bottom, all they'll see is light. These creatures have that, similar to sharks. And of course, with their pack hunting behaviors, you might be wondering, well, why would they need pack hunting and counter shading? I mean, so far they seem like the dominant creatures. So far. Why would they need this and stuff? It's because of their main prey, which is actually their cousins, if you will. They're big cousins. These guys. These are the webbed mouth. The webbed mouths are giant creatures that somewhat resemble an earth whale. They have developed webbing structures around their mouth to stop plankton, microscopic organisms, and marine snow from getting out of the filter. And, well, they sort of resemble their cousins, in a way. Now, similar to their cousins, which are the bone sharks, these guys have a bit more complicated calls in these oceans. Let's say you're in the Guran oceans during this time, swimming through, and you hear a strange buzzing noise that sounds like it would be far away but somehow feels so close. As it ripples through your bones, all you can hear is the violent buzzing. A bit scary, isn't it? And these are the calls that these creatures make to alert others of their kind from far away that danger is near. And these creatures can be literal ecosystems in a sense by how much creatures like to stay their time. Even sticky tubes like to stick their bodies on here. And their webbed manes aren't really used for, well, that. However, these guys are hunted by their cousins, the bone sharks. So, in many cases of you finding webbed mouths, there's always going to be bone sharks nearby, in which they will probably be able to find the webbed mouths and attack them. And you don't really want to get towards the tail of a webbed mouth, because they could fling you out of the water. Most times you want to go near the face and lower back or the belly. Best spots to hunt. And these guys have cousins. The webbed mouths have cousins. Libyan vireo, or lip sweeper. Now, these creatures have developed their so-called upper jaw trunk in a very significant way. Now, these creatures are kind of like the brooms of the Guran Ocean so far. These creatures use their upper lip jaw with a large tooth that is made out of bone. It sweeps the marine snow into the filter, in which they filter out the marine snow with anything that might be bad, like sand. They also do this to sand, and basically anything. So they're basically the cleanup crew. Similar to the webbed mouths, they use their manes for communication rather than dominant displays. Using it for communication, which can go also for several miles, kind of like webbed mouths. Except it probably wouldn't ripple through your bones. It would just sound a bit weird. Other than that, these creatures don't really have predators. I mean, a mother bone shark might pick one off or two to feed their larvae. But other than that, they're not really hunted in a sense. So, I kind of guess it would be a good life to be these creatures? Maybe. Just watch out for bone sharks, as though they might not attack you, they are definitely thinking about it. So, yeah. Now, traveling to the meadows of basically purple grass in the open oceans. These meadows are similar to Earth seagrass meadows, full of greenery, except on Gura it's full of purpley. Yeah, that's the word totally. And you can find some creatures here too, like the Macalolus pillis, which is a spotted purpled herbivore. Now, you might be wondering, what is this? Well, it's a grazer, obviously. A herbivore. These creatures are actually closely related to the webbed mouths than the other creatures. Instead of having baleen structures, though, they have flat molar teeth. And the larger, more muscular, bonier upper jaw lip thing scrapes plants from their roots into its mouth, in which it grinds them up with their molar teeth. They have developed a tan-like structure to blend in with sand, and have developed a purple structure that resembles leaves. So, yeah, it could be pretty hard to tell if these creatures are even there. I mean, just look at them. Don't they look so cute? Kind of. They kind of look gross, if they were in real life. So, yeah, this tan color to blend in with the sand, and purple spots represent plants. It can be hard for many creatures, such as bone sharks, which will probably hunt them. So, what a life to be this guy. Oh wait, I forgot. You got this guy too. The Vilocela moris, also known as the Violet Death. The Violet Death has not retained a sort of fish-like body plan. In fact, these creatures, as the Primus moris was developing, they kept their worm-like body and developed an eel-like body, still retaining the swimming, similar to the swimming chart of A. And instead of developing this strange trunk mouth, they have retained this strange demogorgon-like mouth, with long fangs to tear through the flesh and hold them in place while they eat them. These are the top predators in the purple meadows. Very terrifying predators, as you cannot see them as they're slowly slithering through the purple plant grasses, which is actually terrifying in a sense if you were one of these poor grazers. Kind of hunting like bobbit worms. Take a look at this gif. This bobbit worm drags this poor fish into its burrow. These are how the Violet Deaths sort of hunt, which is going to be very, very sad for any creature that wanders too close to the meadows. Terrifying. Very terrifying. Now, we're going back to these guys. The first bones. Now, the first bone creatures, instead of developing more fish, shark, whale-like tendencies that many of the descendants took, some of them decided to use their muscular fins as a bit more use than just a steer. Entering pedis molars, or squishy foot. Squishy foot, or pedis molars, are a very strange creature indeed, developing 8 limbs. These 8 stumpy tube legs allow them to slowly move through the bottom of the sea. These creatures feed on marine snow. Sort of. Kind of. Ish. If they see any dead matter inside of the marine snow, they will eat that. They don't really eat the marine snow, but they'll kind of swallow dustfuls of it, since it's kind of hard to eat, because these guys are carnivores. If they find any tube worms, they will most definitely eat that. That's mainly their main diet. If they find any tube bodies, they'll probably eat that. Any fan tubes, they will probably eat that. Any mega tube bodies, they probably won't eat that, but they'll probably hollow out its organs and make it into a home. Kind of terrifying. These guys use their tube-like feet, similar to baby sea turtles, slowly pushing away through the sands and moving across. Now, you probably already noticed this by now, but there are strange pink structures with brown stems near their gill structures. These organs are constantly moving, like how you constantly are breathing and stuff. These, or heartbeat constantly moving, it's kind of like that. These organs constantly move, pushing water into the gills. Because these creatures do not swim and currents are not that strong below, these guys, make use of a sort of proto-current with these strange appendages. These appendages can sense vibrations too. And these creatures communicate, through the manes, similar to many of the other creatures that we've been talking about recently. Buzzing like a bug. Take a listen. Funny little guys. So, yeah, that's pretty much all of the tripod worm's descendants. Oh, I forgot. We still got the 4 stars. So let's take a look at the 4 stars descendants. I haven't shown them much love. This is Repentis rostrima, or beak. Beak guy, as I call them. These creatures have developed a strange body with fleshy feet with 2 toes and a strange large butt structure that stores eggs and stuff. A very prominent feature that they've also developing, 2 prominent features, are the eyes, which they have developed 5 of eyes to see above them if any predators are coming down, and the beak. Yeah, a very cool beak. A beak kind of like an octopus. This beak is used to crush basically anything, to body skin, or anything like that. Because similar to octopi, these guys are carnivores, unlike their omnivorous ancestors. And they don't really resemble a starfish too much. Also, one thing I forgot to mention about the 4 stars in the last episode is that they have hydraulic muscles similar to many types of spiders. These guys also have these hydraulic muscles. It allows them to walk like spiders through the water as they search for any edible material that they can find that's meat-based. So, yeah, they kind of look cute in a way, so if you want to keep one as a pet, be my guest. However, some people will probably think that a strange octopus, starfish creature thing isn't the best to keep as a pet, but okay, do you. Oh yeah, and the 4 stars also have another descendant, Tentaculium rostrum, or tentacle beak. These creatures have developed long tentacles and, well, a large beak. They have also developed 5 eyes, 2 tiny eyes and 3 large eyes. Similar to octopi, they have developed long tentacles. Though their tentacles do not have suction cups, the tentacles can still wrap around objects and pull them towards the beak or anything. Similar to octopi, they're kind of intelligent, using different materials around them to build nesting materials. However, this is more intentionally instinct material, so instinctive intelligence, if you will. Since these creatures are still very primitive, and still not using tools or anything like that. And they cannot remember faces, unlike octopi. And octopi can develop bonds with people. These creatures are more than likely never develop bonds with people, as of yet. So yeah, strange starfish creature squid critters, too. Fun. These guys also have another descendant, might I add. Instead of retaining this fleshy snail-like body, which is what their skin is actually like, some of their descendants have developed something to protect them. Testa rostrum, or shellbeak, is their descendants, developing a shell like marine snails. They still have retained a beak, and unlike their ancestors, which are carnivores, these guys are more like mesocarnivores, feeding on plants whenever they need, sometimes if they're desperate, but eating mainly meat. If potential predators attempt to attack them, they can recurl into their shell like a snail or turtle. They still have developed the 5 eyes. This is more than likely going to be an ancestral retreat of the creatures. And they've developed more structurally sound toes to grip on rocks as they slowly climb up. They're slow, like a turtle, but they can jet their beak-like tongue out very fast whenever they need to catch prey quicker. However, they don't really do this. They're mainly scavengers and or eat 2 bodies. These poor 2 bodies that are sessile, getting munched on. And some of the shellbeak's descendants are these, the Seta, or sticky shell. Now, these creatures are horrible and terrifying, While they're called sticky shells as a nickname, their real name is actually bristle shells, as from the strange bristle-like structure. They don't have a beak, and instead they just use their front pair of limbs, which have now turned into their feeding mouth parts, with bristles to catch marine snow and plankton and algae matter, and pull it into the small hole, while the two back legs have turned into a large suction cup that they stick to the flesh of their host, and they can reach-roll back their feeding arms and head into the shell whenever they feel threatened. Now, similar to the sticky tubes, these creatures are like barnacles and stick to the sides of creatures. These poor webbed mouths, man, they're just a living host, which is most parasites. Now, unlike the sticky tubes, which are kind of like sponges that stick to you, kind of, in a way, that don't come off, these guys are more enticed to the barnacles. In fact, scientists were originally going to call them Martian barnacles. But instead, they didn't, sadly. But these creatures have a defense mechanism. Tiny pores around the openings of their suction cup can release a very smelly chemical. This chemical compound and mixture smells like rotting eggs and crap. And most predators that are trying to attack prey and they get this waft smell because these guys will feel threatened, will probably leave because this smells terrible. And webbed mouths actually don't kill that many of the bristle shells that attach to them because, well, they kind of help them in a way. I mean, they might smell bad, but that keeps away the predators. However, if too much breed and get all over them, they'll probably have to remove some. Oh wait, they can't remove some. Oh well, maybe a cleanup crew will evolve sooner or later. Oh, that brings me. Some of their descendants might become the perfect cleanup crew for these poor webbed mouths. Illumius caracan, or squishy crab, is a very strange creature. Instead of developing 5 eyes, they only have 3, sadly. I like the 3 eyes. No, I like the 5 eyes. These creatures have sort of lost their back pair of limbs, instead of replaced it with a thin membrane that allows them to glide through the ocean, similar to that of a stingray. They have developed crab-like claws that have been reinforced with internal chitin that allows them to pinch stuff like crabs. This allows them to safely remove the bristle shells from the webbed mouths' backs and other things. They can even remove sticky tubes if they want. And while, yes, many of them are cleanup crews, as that's easy pickings, these creatures are carnivores, meaning that they are very predatory. So, any poor tube worm or any other small creature, larva of any kind, is going to be attacked. These creatures are kind of like the apex predators of the invertebrates in Gura so far in the oceans. Keep a watchful eye for them critters. Oh, and back to the main sort of body plan that the 4 stars have developed, and this is Purpurea, or purple star. These creatures basically look exactly same as the 4 stars, still retaining the 4 tentacles, except now they are purple and have developed eyes. Instead of 5 eyes, they developed let me count here, 6 eyes, which helps them see better. These creatures feed on purple algae, so no eating meat. However, they will feed on marine snow, which is kind of a meat diet, so, good or bad? I don't know. I'll let you decide. I mean, come on, look how cute they are. They're so cute looking. And, well, yes, these quote-unquote cute creatures are kind of cute. We've been missing some more descendants. We've been only talking about the adult forms and the adult evolutions. So, what if some neotenous larvae of the adults made the larva stage their adult stage and decided to use that to their advantage in the cruel game of evolution. Let's go ahead and check that out, shall we? This Daemonium vermis, or the demon worm. The demon worm is a very terrifying creature. And basically, in all other words, it is basically Gura's equivalent of a tapeworm, which is disgusting. Now, you might be wondering, well, how is this thing the equivalent of Gura's tapeworm? I mean, it looks nothing like a tapeworm. Well, it's because this creature is an internal parasite. Basically, these creatures lay their eggs. Their eggs float out of the ocean into the currents. And that hatches into their larva. Their larva usually gets sucked up by the tube bodies and its descendants. When that happens, the larva inside will slowly develop into adult, developing its back pair of legs into basically sharp hooks to internally slash into the stomach, holding it in place, and then sucking up all the food particles that it makes. However, sometimes its eggs will get swallowed and filtered through by a webbed mouth. And when that happens, it's just going to get more food. But usually webbed mouths get eaten by bone sharks, which means the bone sharks get eaten. If a bone shark dies and sinks to the floor, many scavengers will get the parasites, and so on and so forth, thus creating a cycle of parasitic creatures and their descendants with these demon worms, as they're called. Which is disgusting, but I mean, of course, in evolution, if there's complex multicellular life, there has to be some sort of parasite, right? But not all of the larvae descendants that are neotenous are not all parasites. Introducing Strigulus purpura, or purple scraper. Now, these are general, humble herbivores. Very cute creatures, too. They use the upper part of their mouth, which has developed chitinous-like teeth, to scrape purple algae and plants into their mouth. They are also similar to a grazer. They are actually quite cute and somewhat intelligent. They scrape the algae and other plants into their tongue, which slowly drags them up into the small opening for a mouth. They have these bound around 5 eyes as well, in order to see if any predators are coming near. And they have a long tail that helps them whip potential predators. So, though these guys are herbivores, they will whip you with their tail. So, cool, I guess? Hey, man. If Gura is actually out there and these aliens are actually real, I would like to adopt one of these creatures. It might take hard care, but I would do it. Wait, it'd take me a long time to get there. Oh well, I can wait it out. Now, we've went over animals and the larvae and their descendants. So let's talk about more of the adult evolutions, because that's pretty much all the larva has to offer with their neotenous forms. So, back to these little creatures, the little guys. They also have another descendant. And for that, we'll have to take a look down below the deep tunnels of the sand underground. Talpia instilla, sorry, I don't speak Latin, sorry. These creatures basically mean weird or unusual mole. This is because this creature is convergently evolved with mole crickets, and talpia means mole. Talpion, talpia. These creatures develop long, sharp claws made out of chitin, the same material that makes up their mandible beaks, and allows them to dig. They mainly dig through the day and sleep through the day, and only come out at night to lunge around and look for food. They are nocturnal, with beaks. Their back pair of legs are now just mere tentacles that push them along and help them dig with their main forelimbs into sharp digging claws. what are these creatures digging for, besides to make burrows and a nice place to lay their eggs? They're digging for tube worms, which are their main source of food. Tube worms, plant roots, that's basically it. They'll sometimes slowly dig up into the very bottom side of tube bodies and dig into there and eat their organs, but other than that, they're nothing much to worry about. Just tiny little dark mold bug sea creatures that are kind of creepy sometimes. But only sometimes, right? So, yeah, that's cool, I guess. Now, we've been going over animals, and sadly, the animals' evolution stops here. We're now going to go to plant evolution. The purple weeds, or grass, is a type of plant that has, developed 2 leaves. These are descendants from the purple heart plant, with 2 long pointy leaves similar to grass, pointing out, with long tendril roots going down into the soil. Now, nothing much else is to say about them, except, similar to seagrass, they make long meadows of chains, which is pretty. Pretty purple plants. Mommy, can I have one? No. So, these purple plants are cool, and should give them to your girlfriend on Valentine's Day. And, they make nice meadows, too, so you'll have a nice big patch of them to get every once in a while then. Perfect supply, I guess. Beautiful plants. Then we have these other plants. This is the spore blossom. Now, the spore blossom kind of resembles a palm tree, but these are underwater and only have 2 large, broad leaves. They have roots that extend outwards, kind of like a mangrove, and a thick, hard stem. The main lighter purple part in the very middle is the spore sac. This sac produces the spores, slowly spewing them out. The spores then drift through the current, landing in any spot that is not crowded, and slowly turns into a plant. These plants can provide shelter, food, and pretty much shade for many creatures, and a nice place to hide when predators are looking for your flesh. Creepy. And then there is this plant, also known as the purple Pac-Man plant. The purple Pac-Man plant, also known as the Guran lily pad, is basically just a lily pad. You'll have a sneak peek of the first plant because of glitches. Keep that wisely. But these strange basically lily pad plants are just lily pads with long, broad roots that stick into the ocean and suck up water and nutrients. So, just a purple lily pad. Now, you already got a sneak peek of the first plant, so here we go. The twisting leaves are a type of underwater plant that grow in great bunches, similar to the meadows. They entangle themselves into each other, which can create vast kind of shelter for many animals that want to hide. So they're kind of important, and their leaves are pretty tasty, so herbivores are definitely going to eat them. But they're also going to use their broad stems for shelter, as the broad stems are about as thick as branches. So it would be pretty hard for many predators to really get through. Well, not too hard, but hard enough for prey to slowly hide in the undergrowth of these plants. Show shelter, which is nice. Oh, such beautiful plants. Alright, that's kind of it for all the organisms. So let's go over size comparisons, shall we? This is the tripod worm's descendants. As you can see, many of them, mainly the webbed mouths, are giant. Pretty giant. Next up is the 4-star's descendants. Most of them are not very big. Most of them are actually quite small, especially the demon worms. But, that's the 4 stars and their descendants. This is the two bodies' descendants. As you can see, the massive two body is quite well massive. So there you have it, the two bodies' descendants. Now we have the plant's descendants. So pretty! And that's pretty much it for Gura episode 2. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about the reefs. So, thank you all so much for watching and have a good day. Also, if I mispronounced many of the Latin words, that's because I'm not very good at this, because this is scientific names and I'm not good at that because that's Latin and I don't speak Latin, I speak English. And a little bit of Japanese, but that's about it. So, hope you have a good day today. And also, there might be a Compulus Halloween special, but we'll save that for Halloween if I do decide to make it. But other than that, have a good day and see you later. Bye-bye.